I am Mariette Sidibe, and this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios along Kaiba Avenue. Thanks for joining us. Here are the main news headlines. As his nationwide tour of military establishments and communities continues, the Chief of Defense Staff recently visited an Army-run agricultural project and says the Army is now ready to venture into farming. 69 suspects have been arrested by the Joint Security Patrol Team during Operation Zero Crime. In welcome news for farmers, 20,000 metric tons of NPK compound fertilizer have arrived in the country. June 30th, 2021 marked the phasing out of the Strengthening Government Accountability Project in the Gambia. A national multi-stakeholder forum met to review its success. In international news, a Gambian woman has gone all the way to Kenya in a bid to find her long-lost mother. Those were our main headlines. Now the news in detail. Having been first mentioned by his predecessor in April 2019, the Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces has announced that the Army is now ready to venture into agriculture. Lieutenant General Yakuba Edrame was speaking on Thursday during a visit to the military garden in Yundum. Babkarsi reports.
The April 2019 announcement had said the Gambia National Army, through AGCO Corporation, an American company based in South Africa, would begin large-scale agricultural production. CDS Yakuba Drame visited the newly formed agricultural battalion in Yundum. Work has already commenced at the 14-hectare battalion garden in preparation for transplanting seedlings. The CDS said the venture is in line with their mandate.
Well, let's ask ourselves as a nation, why all these years, with all the efforts, we perhaps cannot achieve what we have set for ourselves in terms of goals, to be food self-sufficient. I had visitors here last 2018, they were from Israel. The armed forces, we took them on the conducted tours. They went to Sierra to have a look. When they came back, they reported to me. Then I was the deputy CDS. And they said, General, we're surprised. I said, what is it? They said, Gambia, you're gifted. You have these vast lands. Water is not an issue. You have God-gifted water. The land is flat, is arable, and crown it up, is fertile. And in the assessment, why do you have to import rice? That's what they ask me. But what is more important, the will and determination is now there to venture into agriculture as well. It is better late than never. We can get ourselves into agriculture.
While inspecting the garden, the soldiers told the CDS that this year they want to cultivate maize, groundnuts, and vegetables, and that they need a tractor for plowing. The CDS promised to provide one, but also called on the Ministry of Agriculture to support the Army with technical expertise.
Like I said, we're all endowed in different ways. All of us cannot do the same. We must be diversified in the way we handle issues. Some could be inclined towards a specific field, others hold a different field, and collectively we can advance the interests of this country. The Ministry of Agriculture could be of tremendous help, given the vast experience and expertise they have in that field. As an institution, we may have limitations. And this is where I believe we have to lean on them to provide them with the skills and expertise so that the Gambia Armed Forces, more or less working in close collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, to advance the subject of agriculture in the armed forces. Because at the end of the day, we are going to serve the wider interest of the average Gambian people. That we cannot achieve as an institution without a direct and indirect assistance and support from the Ministry of Agriculture.
The Army Chief and his delegation are on an annual nationwide tour of military installations and using the opportunity to meet regional governors, community and religious leaders. Babukarsi, QTV News.
69 suspects have been arrested by the Joint Security Patrol Team during Operation Zero Crime. The announcement was made on Thursday at a weekly press briefing at the police headquarters. Lolly M. Kamara reports.
The weekly press briefing is for the public to be updated on the crime and arrest situation in the Greater Banjul area and the successes and challenges faced during the operations. The PRO of the Gambia Police Force, Superintendent Lamin Jai, gave details of the latest arrest.
69 people arrested, and out of these 69 people, 26 of them, their matters are immigration and documentation related matters, and so they have been handed over to the Gambia Immigration Department. And 20 of these people, their cases were related to drugs and drug related matters, and those people too, their matters have been handed over to the Drug Law Enforcement Agency. And the remaining 23 people have been charged with various offenses ranging from going armed in public, also some traffic offenses as well, and also other criminal offenses. They've been charged with the different offenses. And as we speak also, a good number of them's case has also been already put before the courts, and their trial has started as well.
Superintendent Jai reminded the public that the task force will not relent in their work, while acknowledging that the major crimes rate is decreasing. He criticized those members of the public who spread false information on social media.
On the 26th, we've received reports about a girl being kidnapped and thrown at Madiana Forest, I think, Madiana Forest. And so the police have opened an investigation into this situation, and in fact, a WhatsApp audio have been circulating all around talking about this situation. The investigations are ongoing. Preliminary findings as we speak right now suggest that this information is something that is actually nothing to go by. What I mean by that is the fact that the person who has done this WhatsApp audio had been invited by the police for questioning, and we found out that in fact he has not got even an adequate interaction with this person. We want to re-echo and re-emphasize the fact that people should not go about creating imaginary crimes for themselves and spread information about those crimes only to inject or instill fear into the public about situations that are not realistic.
Addressing misconceptions surrounding the operations of the fire service, the public relations officer, Pate Jiba, clarifies some of their constraints.
We will need the assistance of the general public in making sure that society conforms themselves, according to standards. And when we say according to standards, what I'm talking about is to make sure that you allow the firefighter to do his job. We used to have a lot of assaults from society. We have some people throwing stones on fire engines and on the firefighters. And imagine it can cause some kind of injury, and it can cause some kind of damage to the machines that we use.
Having initially targeted the Greater Banjul area, PRO Njai has revealed that Operation Zero Crime has been rolled out across all regions of the country to expose crime and criminal hideouts and protect life and property. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
In welcome news for farmers, 20,000 metric tons of NPK compound fertilizer has arrived in the country, procured by the National Food Security Processing and Marketing Corporation, formerly the GGC. The fertilizer is now available for sale in all depots and cooperatives across the country. Omar Pijalo reports.
The fertilizer is procured to provide Gambian farmers with quality input to enrich the soil to enable a productive harvest. The fertilizer is sold to farmers at a subsidized price. The 400,000 bags comprises the two types of NPK compound fertilizers and urea. According to Pa Omar Bojang, a senior depot and logistic manager at the National Food Security Processing and Marketing Corporation, his institution was mandated by the government through the Ministry of Agriculture to procure and deliver fertilizer to the farming communities. We came to Bara on the 30th of March to receive the first consignment of 140,000 bags of NPK 62010 and NPK 15-15-15 fertilizers for the Gambian farmers ahead of the rainy season, which was distributed to the different depots in the country. Fatim Lee, the Marketing Corporation's marketing manager, said the arrival of the first consignment of fertilizer arrived on time to give confidence to the farming community, adding that more consignments are expected to arrive in the coming weeks. The fertilizers, he said, will be distributed to depots in Basse, Bansang, Kudang, Kuntaur, Kauru, Kerewan, Bara and Saro in Denton Bridge. The fertilizers, he added, will be sold to farmers at a government-subsidized price of $700 per bag. Buyers are advised to pay at Reliance Financial Services.
Each bag is 1,300 that the government has subsidized, so which means your farmer is buying this bag of fertilizer $700, which is very cheap compared to our neighboring countries who are currently selling their fertilizer at a higher price than the Gambia.
Abdul Bey is the branch manager at Bara Reliance branch. He explained the process of buying the fertilizer through Reliance, assuring a fruitful partnership with the corporations.
Part of the partnership is for us to make sure that we collect cash from those people that those farmers that comes to buy, Gambian farmers, because they have to provide credentials that shows that they are Gambians. It could be ID documents or any other national document that they have.
Abdullah Njai, the manager at Bara Depot, said a promise made by the government and the Ministry of Agriculture to the farming community is fulfilled. Pamodu Juf and Buba Sow, both farmers, applauded the government and the Ministry of Agriculture through the National Food Security Processing and Marketing Corporation for helping the farmers. This year, the fertilizers came at the right time. Fertilizers will increase our production because we have been farming on these same farmlands for decades. There are no soil nutrients left in our lands. The type of fertilizers coming into the country in the previous 3 years are of good quality, and it is sold to farmers at a very reasonable price, thanks to the government. Last year, government was only able to procure 220,000 bags of fertilizer for the farmers. However, this year sees a greater purchase, with the first consignment of 400,000 bags arriving on time. The National Food Security Processing and Marketing Corporation, formerly GGC, is committed to easing access to fertilizers to the Gambian farmers. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
We will now go for a commercial break. When we return, we will have more local and international news stories.
The best product in town is back. QCell's MiFi router. Get the best MiFi in the country for just $2,800 and connect up to 15 users with 4G internet speeds and a long-lasting battery life. So rush now to any of our customer care locations and get the best for less while stocks last. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Senior Boss, the Gambia's quality network. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back. On June 30th, 2021, which marked the phasing out of the Strengthening Government Accountability Project in the Gambia, the International Republic Institute, in collaboration with its CSO partners, on Wednesday organized a national multi-stakeholder forum to review its success. Aliu Sise reports.
The International Republican Institute, the IRI, implemented the Strengthening Government Accountability Project in the Gambia between January 2020 to June 2021 to support greater government accountability in the Gambia and to strengthen media and civil society organizations, CSOs, in their watchdog roles. Through this project, CSOs and media were supported to improve their ability to collect, analyze, and disseminate data on government service delivery and citizen feedback aimed at supporting service delivery efforts by the government to be responsive to the needs of the people. The project also brought together government and civil society and media to discuss and strengthen their partnership relations. Robin Namusisi, Resident Program Director of IRI Gambia Office, said the project was funded by the United States Department of Labor and Human Rights and applauds partners who have been part of the project implementation.
Yes, definitely. There are gaps that prompted the project, and those gaps are mainly in the area of information, but also in the area of government utilizing the legal frameworks, the opportunities, the platforms for accountability.
Karamba Ture, Auditor General, National Audit Office, explains that accountability is about taking responsibility for decisions made and actions taken, but also abiding by rules and regulations.
There are also financial rules to ensure standards of propriety, regularity, and probity in managing public funds. The government ministries, departments and agencies, and other public bodies are expected to follow these rules and adhere to the framework prescribed in them.
There were presentations of assessment report on the legal framework that support government accountability and activities implemented by free CSO partners. Under this project, Gambia participates Sahel Film Academy and Activista. In addition, representatives of government ministries such as the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education also gave reports on their various intervention areas to address the needs of the people. Adama Jimba Job is the Deputy Permanent Secretary responsible for programs at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education.
We have what we call the National Education Conference, which also many people are aware of, that is called to bring people from all walks of life to talk about the education issues, taking cue from the policy that we are just about to end so that we can develop a new education policy.
Junkun Jobate, the consultant for the assessment of the project, gave a presentation on the review of government accountability in the context of the available legal frameworks that support government accountability. The assessment highlights the shortcomings and recommendations.
So, civil society organizations should improve civic education within the region to help citizens understand how government works. I think one of the problems that we have, and you will agree with me, us the citizenry, is we don't know how government operates. Sometimes we over-expect certain things from our public officials when it's not their function or their mandate.
IRI is a non-partisan, non-governmental institute that advances freedom and democracy worldwide by developing political parties, civic institutions, open elections, democratic governance, and the rule of law. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
4 automated weather stations were presented on Wednesday to the Ministry of Fisheries and Water Resources by the World Food Programme to help improve weather service and weather critical operations in the Gambia. Abibatu Sise has more.
The purchase of these weather stations is part of the European Union Agriculture for Economic Growth and Food Security and Nutrition to Mitigate Migration program. At the handing over, Yasuhiro Sumura, the World Food Programme Country Director, says with the changing nature of the world, the WFP has also increased its role to strengthen efforts in sustainable food and nutrition security to achieve the SDGs. He adds that these weather stations will enhance timely responses to disasters.
The Gambia is vulnerable to seasonal shocks and natural disasters exacerbated by the climate changes, such as floods, windstorms, droughts, and irregular rainfall patterns, wildfires, and so on. The disasters and shocks affect people's lives and people's livelihoods, damaging their assets and farmlands, deteriorating, in the end, the food security, and increasing malnutrition in the short term and in the long term. Managing these disasters and shocks and building the resilience of households, communities, and the country is the key in our efforts to achieve the zero hunger.
James F.P. Gomez, the Minister of Fisheries and Water Resources, expressed appreciation to the EU and the WFP for their intervention. He went on to highlight the importance of the weather stations, saying it will increase accuracy of weather and climate information for proper intervention.
These 4 additional weather stations would be located across the country, namely in Karawan, Janjambure, Basse, and Ginoy. My ministry will be able to increase the accuracy of our forecast and monitoring, making Gambia safer and better informed.
The management of disasters include preparedness and swift response to mitigate the effects on lives and properties, Mr. Sumura assures that the WFP is committed to supporting the Gambia in disaster risk management.
I would like to assure you of WFP's availability and readiness to continue to support the people and the government of the Gambia in strengthening its national, community, and household level resilience.
The weather stations will be installed in the Upper River, Lower, Central, and the North Bank regions of the country. As the rainy season begins, which is sometimes accompanied by disasters, these weather stations will enhance the monitoring of weather patterns for a coordinated, swift, and systematic response to disasters. For QTV News, I am Abibatu Sise.
A national interface dialogue between heads of security forces, youth organizations, CSOs, inter-party youth committees, and relevant stakeholders was organized on Wednesday by the National Council for Civic Education with support from the United Nations Fund for Population Affairs, UNFPA. Loli M. Kamara has more.
With the team building cordial relations among stakeholders to preserve national security in the 2021 presidential election and beyond. The interface brought together stakeholders to consider the possible challenges and threats to peace and security before, during, and after the December 4th presidential elections. The chairman of the National Council for Civic Education, Serim Faye, expressed gratitude to UNFPA for supporting what he describes as a worthy cause.
The National Council for Civic Education engaged in a variety of civic education activities to inform citizens about their civic rights and responsibilities and empower them to be able to actively participate in governance and development process of the country.
The executive director of the National Youth Council, Alhaji Jajo, points out that young people form majority of the country's population, and including them in a national dialogue will help maintain peace and stability.
How do we build that cordial relationship between the security and the civilians, but especially the young people? Because always when there are confrontations between the security and the civilians, be assured it's the security and the young people. All the incidences in Faraba, in Sanyang, yesterday in Mandwar, the confrontations are always between the security and the young people.
Halifa Saleh, the inter-party committee co-chair, stressed the need for citizens to understand and make informed choices in the December 4th presidential elections.
Every Gambian must know that governments have their limitation. Every government you elect comes with a policy. Before you vote, you should know about it. If you take the risk of voting without its consideration, well, you have taken the risk. Now, your duty is to ask yourself the question whether the policies of that government have addressed your needs and aspirations or not.
Kule Adani, UNFPA residents representative, spoke about the significance of the inclusion of women and young people in our development and nation-building processes.
In any time that they continue to feel excluded from civic discourse and political participation, they continue to grow in mistrust. They feel that they are being patronized. We only come to them at the time, okay, go and vote.
On behalf of the Interior Minister, Manding Sedikan said the Ministry of Interior advocates for political tolerance to avoid conflicts. He appeals for cooperation and collaboration from the media to support peacemaking efforts during and after the forthcoming elections.
This forum will also help us profile some policy recommendations and way forward to strengthen the peace and security in advance to the said December election 2021.
The chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Ali Mamarnjai, reminded the public about the ongoing voter registration, stating that getting the voter's card qualifies you to vote in the December 4th presidential election. For QTV News, Loli M. Kamara.
In international news, the love for a mother is very strong for almost every human being. But how far will you go in search of your mother? A 32-year-old Gambian woman has gone all the way to Mombasa in Kenya to look for her mother. Our reporter Momodu Gajaga looks at the story.
Gambian woman Fanta Jallo arrived in Kenya this week in search of her mother's love. She is searching for the whereabouts of Maria Swale, her mother. Fanta's father is a Gambian and her mother is Kenyan. Speaking to Kenyan TV network NTV, Fanta says,
"When I see people with their mothers, it is emotional for me."
In tears, she continued,
"We all know the love of a mother. To grow up without your mother's affection is hard."
While her tears dropped, she emphasized,
"In fact, being without your mother is the hardest thing one can endure."
Her journey to trace her mother has been a long time coming. She says her Kenyan friends exchange contacts with her and she wants to try her luck. With a beaming smile this time, Fanta says,
"When I see my mom, I will run to her, hug her to show how much I missed her, how much I loved her, and how long I have waited for this day to come."
Despite looking for that motherly love, something still bothers Fanta, which is why her mother abandoned her.
"I was told that because she was pregnant with me, for her to live in Germany was not a proper thing to do, with the belief in those days that if you allow your baby to grow up in Europe as an African, you will not be a good child. For example, you will not have a good upbringing. So due to the pregnancy, they convinced her to return to the Gambia."
Fanta's parents separated when she was less than a year old, forcing her mother Maria Swale to return to Kenya. She was then left under the care of her father, Pale Jallo, and her grandmother, and currently living with her uncle in the Gambia. Her father left her behind and went to the United States, where he has since remarried. She says her father has refused to talk about his relationship with her mother.
"Anytime that I ask him, it appears he never wants to talk about it. He always gives me an excuse that he doesn't want to talk about it because he doesn't feel happy talking about it."
How long will Fanta's search for her mother continue? Well, she does not care how long as she finds her, because finding her mother means everything to her. Momodu Gajaga, QTV News.
Quite a touching story there. We are happy for you, Fanta. That's all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Do have a nice weekend and thanks for watching.